Tonight I am excited because I know Levent for a long time when he was at Admiral's Cove, and then he opened up his own place, Ocean Blue in Tequesta, and now of course he's at Loblolly, and he does a good job over there. Those of you that come from Loblolly, I know you appreciate his work and here. And Levent, where are you now? He's getting fitted, so. He's the executive chef, and he said, oh, I want to do one of those, because once in a while in the winter, he brings his people from Loblolly here for a special night, to get them out of the dining hall at Loblolly, which is a nice thing. So the reason why he's here as well is I sell to Loblolly. So all the top chef that comes here, you got, Chef Cafe Charbonnet, and you got Boucan, name it, you got it, Lindsay from Regional, because I sell to those restaurants, and they really want to patronize the farmer, and they want to show their customer base that they buy veggies from a real farm. It's not just a fakey Cisco or, Cheney brother. So that's a good part, and that's why I appreciate the relationship we get together, and that's very important to us, and that's how they call me or they send me a text at 11, 12 o'clock at night, and of course I'm in bed, but the first thing in the morning, their food is picked up at 6:37 and it goes out the door by 11. So that's how fresh they want it, and that's the main important point around here. So enjoy your evening. Levent, Chef Executive Levent Yurdatap. I can never pronounce it.
I'll help you out with that. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
So welcome,
Hello,
Chef,
everybody.
and have a good time.
Welcome to Kai Kai Farm. This is my first time doing a cooking class, so I'm not very good at this, so bear with me here. Like Diane said, I've known Diane for a little while now. I used to own a restaurant in Tequesta, Ocean Blue. We had that run about 4 or 5 years, and I met Diane when I was at the Ocean Blue. And it was funny because I called her up. She said, what time? I said, what time you open? She said, I open the doors at 6 o'clock in the morning. I said, okay, I'll be there at 6 in the morning. And she didn't believe me, but I showed up. So since then, we've been working together. They do a really great job here at the farm. They get great product, great produce. And at Loblolly right now, we buy some of her product to give our members, and a really high quality product. So after Loblolly, I moved on to, after Ocean Blue, I moved on to Loblolly. I'm the executive chef there now. And actually, our front office staff decided to surprise me here. Well, thanks for coming, guys. So we're going to start with a gazpacho, okay? And it's a very simple recipe. You throw everything in a blender, pretty much. Okay, food is a very subjective thing. When I cook at home or if I'm doing special, I usually don't follow a recipe. I just do whatever I feel like is right for the food itself. So you're going to have recipes in front of you. You don't have to stick to it. You don't like something, take it out, add it in, something that you like instead, whatever you think works for it. And I usually don't even measure. I'm guilty. So gazpacho is a tomato-based and cucumber-based chilled soup. So we're going to start with the gazpacho. We did some tomatoes here. I'm going to put them in a little blender. You got red peppers?
Yes, you got red peppers. Okay, you got your olive oil.
There you go. Some onions, red peppers. You got
He's got cucumbers right there.
Okay. We're going to have a couple of cucumbers in it. Like I said, you're going to have the recipe once you're done. Little olive oil in it. Garlic. You got garlic?
Yes.
And we're going to take everything in. We blend everything, then we season it. You're going to see a lot of places you go to restaurants, you get this always same bright red gazpacho. My gazpacho is always different color because I use heirloom tomatoes. I use whatever tomatoes taste right. Nowadays, tomatoes, it's very difficult to find a good tomato, unless you're buying from Kai Kai Farm, obviously. So members at the club sometimes say, how come your gazpacho every time is different color? Because we're just using whatever the highest quality tomato for that month is. Heirloom tomatoes are good sometimes good red beefsteak tomatoes are good. So I use whatever is the best ingredient for that time of the month. And, you know, all these ingredients, I take a little bit of cucumbers, onions, tomatoes. I dice them and put them as a garnish. So you have a little chunk in it, too, as you're eating the gazpacho. And feel free to garnish it with some, you know, sour cream if you like, some scallions. You can put anything you want in it that you think works for you. You can put a little lemon juice in it, lime juice in it, or sometimes some people put, I do, red wine vinegar in it. To a little bit acid. Acidity is important in food. You got to have a balanced sweet acid, so I try to create a balance when I do that. Everybody's eating. I want to start, while everybody's eating, I want to start the next dish because it takes a little bit of time to roast the eggplant and stuff. I'm going to show you how everything is done. This is going to be the eggplant meatball. While we're doing that, let me give you a little background on me. I was born and raised in Istanbul, Turkey. I moved here when I was 18 years old, and so I just brought some of my heritage food with me. So we're going to do eggplant meatballs. It's not a real meatball. So we got some eggplant, and we take the skin off of it, and we're going to put it in a little bowl. I'm going to put some onions and garlic. A little olive oil, then we're going to roast this whole thing off. So this is going to take a little bit of time. You can, while you're enjoying your gazpacho. Now we're going to put this mixture in the oven in the back. So I'm going to disappear for a second. Okay, I heard there's a question about what the heat is in the gazpacho. It's Tabasco, or you can put jalapenos in it too. So I put a little Tabasco because Tabasco already has some acid in it too, so it kind of helps out to bring the flavors. Acid and salt will help bring all the flavors out in the food. So that's why we put a little acid in the form of vinegar or Tabasco in it. So now we have our eggplant roasting. In a separate pan, we take some oranges with the juice and everything, scallions, walnuts, parsley, and I put a little bit of Montreal seasoning in this. My favorite grilling ingredient, Montreal seasoning. And we're going to puree this. Here's the Montreal goes in. All the measurements are in the recipes. But like I said, you don't have to stick to the recipes. So we blend this together, and we're waiting for eggplant to roast. Meanwhile, what we do is we're going to take some tomatoes. This is for the sauce part of it, and onions, and we're going to roast this one off in a pan too. We'll toss this and put it in the oven. We're going to roast this one out. When you roast things off, what happens is most of the liquid comes out, the water comes out, and it actually concentrates the flavor, so it gives a lot of flavor to it. I don't put anything else besides that one. Maybe a little bit of garlic you can add to it. I like to leave the flavors pure in this one. So we're going to put this in a container too, and off it goes into the oven. We're going to play some pretend here too sometime, because otherwise it'll take forever. We'll be here till midnight. So we're going to speed things up a little bit. So we got this mixture blended with the walnuts, scallions, parsley, oranges. Put this here. And then we do the same process with the eggplant, but we're going to puree the eggplant a little bit harder. I like to leave walnuts and that orange just a little bit coarser than the eggplant. That's why I do in separate batches. So we put the eggplant mixture in, eggplant and onions and garlic here. And we're going to puree this one too. You know, eggplant is something that I really like it cooked all the way through. Otherwise, it has a really cardboardy flavor to it that I don't care for. My wife drives me nuts. She always cooks it less. She likes it better that way. She didn't get the memo. I'm Turkish. I know eggplant. You can shake it a little bit if you're not. There you go. So now we mix everything together. You can see on the TV, right? Oh, look, I can watch myself on TV. So this gives a little paste to it. If it's too thin for you, maybe you cooked your eggplants a little too long, or you put too much oil, you can always thicken it with little breadcrumbs. I like to use Japanese breadcrumbs. Panko is a little heartier than the regular breadcrumbs. And what we do is we take these out. We make them balls. You can fry them lightly if you like. I like to pan fry things in a little flat top or a saute pan. And we do both sides and finish in the oven. And then we take the tomatoes I put earlier in the oven too. That's going to take a little while. So we're just going to walk through that one and do the same process. You can just do it right into this or right inside the Vitamix blender. And that makes a nice little sauce for you. So we're going to start plating everything up for you. And it's not on the recipes. I fly by the seat of my pants all the time. They'll tell you. I decided to add a little goat cheese to it because I think it'll just give a little zip to it too. So I took the goat cheese, mixed it with some Kalamata olives and basil and salt, and a little cream to make it a little smoother. And we're going to put it on top. It's not in your recipes, but I'll give Diane the recipe. It's very simple. Goat cheese, chopped up Kalamata olives and basil. Really nothing to it. And you can add some salt to it if you like. So we're going to plate this up, and we're going to serve you in a minute, okay? How about a seat on my pants? I just decided I want to add some balsamic glaze on it. So it's something you can find at the Publix, or if you get some balsamic vinegar, a little brown sugar, and reduce it down to it becomes a syrup very slowly. And it gives a lot of sweet and tartness to the dish, and it really adds another dimension to it. While everybody's eating their eggplant, we're going to start the zucchini fritters. Okay, for the zucchini fritters, we get few zucchinis, 3 zucchinis on the recipe. And by the way, my Turkish is kind of bad now. Actually, my English is better than my Turkish now, even though I lived there for 18 years. I grew up there. I misspelled it. It's mücver, not mücevher. Mücevher means jewelry in Turkish. So I was thinking rich. So we take some zucchini, take the seeds out. You can leave the skin on. Yellow, green, doesn't matter. Put some salt on it. Salt will extract the liquid out of it. So once you extract the liquid out of it, you want to squeeze it as much as you can. You want it as dry as possible. So we take some of this zucchini and a little dill. Eggs. Feta cheese goes with everything. And we mix this together. We throw some coriander in it. And once we get some sort of consistency on this, mix it nicely, then we're going to start adding a little flour to it. We just want it to thicken it up a little bit. There you go. There's the video. So we're going to add a little bit more flour, a little thicker. And we take this out. You can take a flat top or a saute pan, very lightly oil. I like to use olive oil or avocado oil. And we just lightly fry it just like a pancake, small batches at a time. And I serve this with a little tzatziki sauce. We don't say tzatziki in Turkish, but cacık. Cacık. Tzatziki is Greek way, and Turks and Greeks don't get along, so that's Turkish, not Greek. Then once you fry it up, you can finish in the oven because there'll be a little bit uncooked center, especially if it's thick. So we just want to finish in the oven, make sure it's cooked all the way through. Otherwise, it has a bitter flour taste to it. You want to cook that flour out of it. So we're going to start plating it out for you, and you'll taste that in a minute. Turkish yogurt. Very fine diced cucumbers. I take the seeds. I use a seedless cucumber. I take the seeds out. There's a little bit of seeds in there, even though it says seedless. That's a lie. And I fold it in there, a little garlic and dill. And you can squeeze just a touch of lemon juice in it if you like. So that's what's in the tzatziki sauce. I think that it makes a really nice pair with the tzatziki sauce and the zucchini fritters. So our next dish is going to be a snapper. I put on the menu, it says local fish. I use a yellowtail snapper. And it was one of the hottest selling dishes at my old restaurant at Ocean Blue. And I omitted one thing off of this recipe. I used to crust the fish with the macadamia nuts. So, but it makes it too rich, and I was afraid that since it's a main course, that I can't, if anybody's allergic to nuts, yes, I know I had it in the eggplant, but that's an appetite. We can omit, they can skip that course, but I wanted everybody to enjoy the main dish, so I took the macadamia nuts off of it. And macadamia nuts actually creates a really nice balance because nuts has a lot of oil in it, very fatty. With the citrus flavors, everything really works well together. So we're going to start with the beurre blanc sauce. Beurre blanc sauce is a classic French sauce. I don't speak French, but I was told that it literally means undone butter. Butter made of 3 components. You got the butter fat, you got milk particles, and you got water in it. The point is melting the butter without breaking those components apart and keep it together and add flavor to it. So that's the whole idea behind it. And what you try to do on a beurre blanc, you start adding butter to it slowly. You make a base with your reduction. We're going to use in this one grapefruit juice, rosemary and shallots, white wine, and a little bit of heavy cream. And you don't want butter to go over 120 degrees. I like to keep it around 110 degrees. You add your butter slowly to it. Otherwise, it'll start separating. That's what the separating point for butter is when you heat it up. So we're going to start the sauce. I don't think there's any cameras back there. But what we'll do is we're going to take, I have rosemary and shallots here. We can use a little bit of olive oil. Oops. So we're going to put it on the burner, and we're going to start sauteing these until they're nice and soft. It's going to come to a point that it's translucent. That's where we're going to deglaze the pan with some white wine. Once we add the white wine, we want to reduce the white wine almost until it's dry. Then we're going to add the grapefruit juice to it and reduce it down, and a little bit touch of honey, because if you reduce the whole grapefruit juice, it's going to be very tart. We want to add a little sweetness to it. And I think this camera will show you. Once we reduce, this is honey. Once the grapefruit juice is reduced, it's going to have this color to it. It gets really dark, amber colored, very dark. Then we add some heavy cream to it. What heavy cream does is actually helps that butter to stabilize. It makes it a little harder for it to break into those 3 components, so it won't split on you. And then we're going to start adding our butter slowly to it. So now I hear it sizzling back there. We add the white wine. We're going to reduce that one down. Then we're going to add our grapefruit juice and reduce it. And we'll add a little honey to it. Our wine is reduced almost dry. Now we're going to add our grapefruit juice to it. We start with this. It starts this color. And once everything's reduced, we end up with this thick, dark, amber-colored, very thick syrup. Then after that, we're going to start adding butter to it. Fortunately, we made a big batch of this reduction, so I have Justin, my sous chef from Loblolly, is adding some butter to it, and he's going to finish that one off, and I'm going to show you the finished product. How are the zucchini fritters? Any feedback? Any questions on the zucchini fritters? Any questions on that one? No? Okay. So he's a group here. Thank you. All right, now that was the sauce. Now we're going to start working on the little garnish salsa for this. They call them supremes. I call them sections. Grapefruit section. We take the grapefruit, take the peel off of it, and just take the little membranes off of it. If I'm doing it at home, I'm just buying a jar of Del Monte grapefruit section from Publix, which is a very good product, and use that. But for at the club, we use the fresh grapefruits. And very simple salsa, very refreshing. I like to use my, in dishes like that, rustic style. Just take the leaves off of it. And little red onions. And you can add salt, pepper to it if you like. Nice, colorful salsa goes on top of the dish. Then another component to this dish is I use pearl couscous. I like to use orzo sometimes. They're both pastas. You know, you boil it just like a regular pasta. And I like to add roasted red peppers, roasted vegetables to it, and mix it with salt and pepper. That's going to be your starch on that dish. And on this one, we're using yellowtail snapper. This is the finished product, the butter sauce. We added 4.5 pounds of butter to that recipe. So the color, let me see if I can find the original one. It turned from this to that. So it's very heart healthy. Also, this beurre blanc sauce is very tricky. Once you make it, you want to keep it in a warm area. You don't want it too hot. You don't want it too cold. You want to keep it around 80, 90 degree temperature. Otherwise, it'll get stiff on you or it'll just break on you. So it's very finicky sauce here we're dealing with. So I'm going to put it right back there. So there was a question, how did we cook the fish? We cooked it in a pan. Like, get a pan hot. To cook fish, you want to get a pan hot, and you want to see a little bit white smoke coming out of it before you put your oil. Otherwise, your oil kind of gives an off flavor to it. Now, not a lot of people will taste that, but that's what we do. As you're getting your entree served, I'm going to start slowly working on the next dish, which is the dessert. So this is a little twist. I mix Turkish food with Caribbean food. How's that? Kilam natia. Natia is sabayon, which is eggs whipped with some sort of alcohol. But on the natia, you add more flavor to it, and you finish out with the gelatin, so it holds up almost like a panna cotta. And we're going to add some whipped cream to it and soften up. So it creates almost a chilled sabayon mousse. And we're going to serve that with some tropical fruit salsa, which is kiwi, mango, papaya, anything you want. Strawberries. You can add some mint to it if you like. You can add basil. Believe it or not, basil makes a really good addition to dessert, actually. And we're going to top that up, and we're going to sandwich it between 2 sheets of filo sheets. So now we're going to start with the sabayon. Actually, my guys got ahead of me, so it's good. In this pan, we have 4 eggs and 4 egg yolks. What we're going to do this, we're going to take this. We're going to add key lime juice to it. So that's 8 ounces of key lime juice. Then we're going to add 10 ounces of sugar to it. And we're going to mix this up. I'm sure a lot of people, they haven't made sabayon in this audience, but what normally we do is we cook the eggs almost like a hollandaise would be on a double boiler. And we cook it slowly as we mix it. So when it's cooking, actually, you're not making scrambled eggs. You're making it into a nice, silky, smooth, textured sauce. So I'm going to go back there and start cooking this one, and I have the finished product back there. I can show it to you. I bypass the double boiler. I go straight on fire. As long as you can keep moving the bowl around, don't get it too hot, move it around. I wish there was a camera here I can show it to you, but it'll be just fine. You just want to vigorously whisk it until it starts. They call it the ribbons. When you run your spoon across it, that little stroke just stays there. It doesn't go back, covered back up. So as long as you reach that, you're in good shape. So we're going to start making the sabayon here. And it starts foaming at the beginning, and you can control the temperature as you're doing it. You can take it off the fire. You think it's getting too hot. But I suggest you, when you do it, just do it on a double boil. You put a pot of water, bring it to a boil, and set your bowl on top of it. The steam kind of warms up. It gives a lot more control to it. All right, I see that we're almost done serving the macadamia, snapper dish. So anybody has any question about the snapper dish? And next step is going to be our filo dough crust. So let me grab a sheet tray for this one. All right, in the professional kitchen, we call this a sheet tray. Cookie pan, whatever you want to call it. And this is a store-bought filo sheet. You don't want to try this doing it at home. I wouldn't do it myself. So the sabayon ends up being like this. When you finish it, it has a thick, very smooth texture to it. So for the filo dough, on our cookie sheet, I like to put a parchment paper. Then we're going to open this little guy up. This is pretty tricky to work with, too. You want to keep it covered all the time. It dries up very fast in the kitchen. Lightly moist towel does the job for it as you're trying to work with it. All right, so this is our filo sheet here. Just nice and soft. We're going to work pretty quick with it so we don't have to cover it up. We put one layer. Now this is melted. I melted some butter. I got a little ahead. So, thank you. We're going to brush this with butter. You don't put anything in the bottom. Just put your filo sheet. Then we're going to brush this lightly with butter. Then we have some sugar. We're going to sprinkle some granulated sugar on it. We're going to repeat this process 5 times, like almost like making baklava. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Oh, I forgot the sugar. So we're going to pretend this is our fifth layer. We like to pretend. After the last layer, what we need to do is we need to cut this, because you don't want to cut it after it's baked. It gets very crispy and it just crumbles all over the place. So we're going to go ahead and cut this one. I like to cut little triangles out of it. You can just do any size you want. I'm just going to do this one a little large. And then we're going to put another piece of parchment paper on it. And another sheet tray on top of it. The purpose of this one, we want it to, when it's baked, we want it to be nice and flat. If you don't put it, it bubbles up. Then you're going to have little domes on top. So this goes in the oven at 350-degree oven. If you have convection oven, go low fan. I like cooking low and slow all the time. Then when it's golden brown, we take it out and let it cool down. And I'm going to show you the final product. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We did our homework ahead of time. So you end up with these. Little triangles. Once our sabayon is done, we whip some cream and we'll fold it into the sabayon. So what it does is, sabayon is a little rich and it kind of adds creaminess, smooths it out, like lightens up the tartness of it. So this already has the whipped cream in it. And then we dice small for any fruit you like I said, and mix it together. Frankly's mixing it over here. Here, let me show you. I'm a big fan of colorful stuff, so it's nice, colorful salsa that's going to go on it. And how's everybody's snapper? Good? Now imagine that it had macadamia nuts on it as a crust. It makes it a lot richer at the end. But we omitted that one this time. Plus macadamia nuts are like $150 a pound. So now we're going to start plating your desserts. I apologize. She's right. I forgot to add the part that you add the gelatin. At the very end, when your sabayon is nice and warm, you pull it off your double boiler. It's already hot. There's a method called bluing the gelatin. You take the gelatin, you soak it in a little bit water, so it softens up. Then you squeeze the water off and you put it. I skip all that stuff. Since it's nice and warm sabayon, I just throw my gelatin sheet in there and mix it really good so it doesn't have big lumps in it. That achieves that stiffness. Thank you.